South Africa once again demonstrated why they remain the benchmark in international rugby, overpowering Wales 43-0 at Kings Park on Mandela Day in another commanding Nations Championship performance. On paper, the scoreline looked like yet another ruthless display from the reigning world champions, with 7 tries, 4 test debuts, and a perfect July campaign completed under the guidance of head coach Rassie Erasmus. Yet behind the celebrations, the performance told a more complicated story. While the result extended Wales' miserable scoring drought against the Springboks, stretching back to 2024 and following last year's 73-0 defeat in Cardiff, there were also signs that Erasmus will leave Durban with plenty to work on despite another convincing victory. The Springboks crossed through Jasper Wiese, Cobus Reinach, Kriel, debutant Jaco Williams, who scored twice, Arendse, and Paul de Villiers, but the head coach is unlikely to judge the evening solely by the scoreboard. Instead, he will focus on the accuracy, discipline, and execution that briefly deserted his side throughout the contest, particularly during a frustrating second-half spell when opportunities were wasted despite overwhelming dominance. Nevertheless, there was still plenty for South African supporters to celebrate, especially the remarkable depth that continues to grow within the squad as Erasmus confidently introduced another wave of fresh talent without sacrificing results. The biggest talking point throughout the evening was undoubtedly the complete destruction of the Welsh scrum. From the very first engagement, Gerhard Steenkamp and debutant Carl Sadie imposed themselves with extraordinary authority, driving their opponents backwards almost every time the two packs came together. Referee Andrew Brace made it perfectly clear before kickoff that both front rows would be expected to remain square and legal, removing any excuses or technical arguments, and under those conditions the superiority of the South African pack became impossible to ignore. One scrum in particular summed up the difference between the two sides. As the Welsh pack was driven rapidly backwards, scrum half Cobus Reinach simply detached from the base and raced over for one of the easiest tries of his international career while the opposing forwards were still desperately trying to regain their balance. The pressure became so relentless that Wales eventually replaced both starting props in an attempt to stabilize the set piece. Yet the changes brought little improvement. Even after a late yellow card forced Dylan Lewis back onto the field, his first scrum immediately collapsed under another wave of South African pressure. At one stage, Wales were even penalized for effectively pulling out of the scrum contest altogether, highlighting just how one-sided the battle had become. Statistically, the dominance was extraordinary. South Africa won every scrum they fed while repeatedly forcing Wales to retreat on their own put-in. Although the penalty count never fully reflected the scale of the destruction, largely because Andrew Brace managed the contest rather than constantly penalizing every collapse, anyone watching the game could clearly see which side completely controlled rugby's most physical contest. Despite the brutal start, Wales deserve recognition for refusing to completely fall apart. During the opening stages they struggled badly, missing 9 of their first 20 tackles, while allowing the Springboks to make huge gains with almost every carry. Jasper Wiese's opening try perfectly illustrated those defensive problems as South Africa repeatedly broke through weak first-up tackles to establish early momentum. At the breakdown, experienced hooker Malcolm Marx also caused endless problems by slowing possession and winning turnovers, making life even more difficult for the visitors. At that point, memories of the crushing 73-0 defeat suffered in Cardiff last November seemed destined to return. Yet, to their credit, the visitors gradually rebuilt their confidence and significantly improved their defensive work. Led by captain Jack Morgan, who produced a remarkable tackling performance, Wales increased their completion rate dramatically as the match progressed. The arrival of replacements also injected fresh energy into the contest. Ryan Elias impressed after coming off the bench, while James Botham carried strongly and competed fiercely at the breakdown. For a period around the 50-minute mark, Wales actually managed to spend sustained time inside the South African 22, asking questions of the world champions despite never truly threatening the final result. Unfortunately for Steve Tandy's side, promising attacks repeatedly ended in disappointment. Ellisme was held up over the line when a try looked certain, a promising overlap disappeared through poor handling, and on 2 separate occasions Paul de Villiers produced crucial breakdown steals that completely halted Welsh momentum. Even as the scoreboard continued to favor the home side, those moments highlighted the determination shown by the visitors after such a difficult opening period. There were encouraging signs for Wales, particularly compared with their heavy defeat last season, but encouragement alone could not change the final scoreline or end their lengthy scoring drought against the Springboks. One of the biggest positives for South Africa was undoubtedly the outstanding contribution made by their 4 debutants. Rassie Erasmus has built a reputation for trusting emerging players, and once again that policy delivered impressive rewards. Fly half Vusi Moyo showed calm decision-making, tidy handling, and produced an excellent cross-field kick that created an important attacking opportunity. Although his debut was measured rather than spectacular, it suggested considerable long-term potential. Even more impressive was winger Jaco Williams, who enjoyed a dream first appearance in the famous green and gold jersey. Playing at his home ground, Williams scored 2 tries, created opportunities for teammates, broke the defensive line repeatedly, and displayed composure far beyond his international experience. Up front, Carlu Sadie immediately justified his selection by helping dominate the scrum, while lock Ruben van Heerden worked tirelessly throughout the evening with a heavy defensive workload. Importantly, none of these newcomers were simply thrown into the deep end. Erasmus carefully surrounded them with experienced internationals including Damien de Allende, approaching his 100th test appearance, and Pieter-Steph du Toit, ensuring young players always had senior leadership beside them. That balanced approach continues to strengthen one of rugby's deepest squads. Another player who further enhanced his growing reputation was Paul de Villiers, already one of the breakthrough performers of the international season. He once again delivered an exceptional all-round display. He carried more than any other Springbok, consistently crossed the gain line, produced multiple turnovers at critical moments, and completed his evening by scoring his first test try from a powerful rolling maul. Performances like these explain why so many observers believe South Africa's playing depth now extends further than almost any other nation in world rugby. Even with 10 changes to the starting lineup, the Springboks remained physically dominant, tactically disciplined for long periods, and comfortably superior against experienced international opposition. Yet despite the convincing margin of victory, this was far from a flawless performance. Rassie Erasmus has repeatedly challenged his players to pursue excellence rather than simply victories, and by those demanding standards this display left plenty of room for improvement. The statistics revealed complete control in possession, territory, line breaks, and post-contact meters, but they also exposed costly inaccuracies. The Springboks conceded far too many turnovers, dropped several promising attacking opportunities through simple handling mistakes, struggled to win contestable kicks consistently, and even missed goal-kicking chances that would normally be converted without difficulty. Perhaps most frustrating was a lengthy period early in the second half when South Africa controlled virtually every aspect of the contest yet failed to score for more than 20 minutes. Against stronger opponents, such wastefulness could easily prove far more costly. That reality will certainly occupy Erasmus and his coaching staff during the review sessions. Even so, the broader picture remains overwhelmingly positive for the world champions. They completed another unbeaten July campaign, introduced exciting new talent, preserved the remarkable strength of their squad, and once again reminded the rugby world why they remain among the sport's elite teams. As attention gradually turns toward even greater challenges later in the nation's championship, including the growing rivalry with the All Blacks, the Springboks know that stronger performances will be required. But they also know they possess extraordinary depth, world-class forwards, proven leaders, and a steady stream of young players ready to step onto the international stage. On a night that celebrated Mandela Day, South Africa delivered another emphatic victory, another clean sheet, and another reminder that under Rassie Erasmus, success is no longer measured only by the scoreboard. It is measured by constant improvement, relentless competition for places, and the ability to produce new international stars while continuing to win convincingly. That may ultimately be the greatest achievement of all, because while the 43-0 victory over Wales will quickly become another result in the record books, the depth, ambition, and standards being built within the Springbok squad could shape international rugby for years to come.